When it comes to horse racing, you can never have too much information. With TwinSpires, you can place your bets with confidence, whether you use handicapping insights like our Brisnet speed ratings, prime power and past performances, the guidance of our experts' top picks, or just choose a name that catches your eye. Yes! No matter how you pick your horse, bet with TwinSpires. And now you can race to victory with TwinSpires tournaments.
Welcome back to the TwinSpires jury. I'm Ashley Anderson here with James Scully from Colonial Downs. We are here on site for the Virginia Derby meet, and we also have our Gulfstream Park whisperer, Nick Tammaro, joining us today to talk all things Colonial Downs and Gulfstream Park. We'll also give our picks for the Virginia Derby and the Virginia Oaks happening on Saturday. And Nick, happy to have you here with us. How are things going with you?
Very excited to be joining you. Yeah, somebody might whisper into my ear to look at a track besides Gulfstream some days, but still plenty of fun coming up. Big 12 race card on Saturday.
Awesome. Well, I'll start with you today for your best bet of the week. So tell me about that.
Yeah, I like De Regresso in the 10th at Gulfstream tomorrow. A bit of a pet horse of mine, but 8-1 on the morning line. This is a horse that's been facing considerably better for quite some time. I think one of the biggest things about this race, guys, is that the balance of power in terms of the horses, really with the best credentials, are all towards the outside. I know the one is the morning line favorite, but that has a lot to do with connections more so than accomplishments on the racetrack. That's a Safi Joseph Jr. runner. New Ginia and Vive Veuve are both stakes winners or stakes caliber horses. They're drawn in the 11 and 12. De Regresso is getting serious class relief. We last saw her in the Pegasus World Cup filly and mare turf. This is going to be a far softer spot. She also gets Lasix back on coming out of stakes competition, and I think those are influential. What I liked is that she can be probably mid-pack or so, and I think a lot of the best runners in here want to do their best running in the closing stages. So I thought she could really fall into the right kind of trip. Felt like 8-1 would be right in the vicinity of what would make me excited.
Looks like she's working out sharply, has 2 wins from Gulfstream, and is finishing the money 4 times from 6 starts at Gulfstream. So certainly looks like a good chance and a good price there too.
No doubt about it. I'd love that 8-1.
James, I will turn it over to you. What is your best bet of the week?
Well, I'm going to go with Colonial Downs on Saturday. It's number 2, Just Call Ray, and race 7 at Colonial Downs. And this is a 6-year-old gelding for Jamie Ness, 1-2 for Jamie Ness in here. He's got number 1, Eloquist, who's 7-2 on the morning line. But number 2, Just Call Ray. I really liked his effort 3 starts back. He had back-to-back races where Mikel Sanchez, the leading rider at Parks, was aboard him and ran a big race 3 back. I don't know what happened 2 back. He just didn't get the right trip, I thought. He was a little bit too far back. But I liked how he rebounded, going 9 furlongs against a $40,000 claimers at Aqueduct last time, finishing second. His last 2 wins have come at 1 mile and 70 yards, so I think he prefers a little bit less ground, so the cutback to 1 mile will be favorable. And I like seeing Mikel Sanchez, who had a great meet at Colonial last year, finishing second by 1 win in the standings. I like seeing him retake the mount. And I think being drawn inside Just Call Ray is going to be forwardly placed. Look for a better trip on Saturday.
Looks like we'll see a lot of Jamie Ness here this weekend. And as you said, with Michael Sanchez, and we have Jaime Rodriguez as well. And they're actually going head to head in a couple of races here at Colonial. So should be fun to watch. Well, I will take it over to my best bet also actually not at Colonial. It is at Oakland Park for the Grade 3 Whitmore. And I'm going with number 3, Giant Mischief at 5-1. This is I thought, a stellar field for the Whitmore, and we have, Tejano Twist, Happy as a Choice, and of course the headliner Booth, who is coming off a big win in the Commodore Stakes, but a bit inconsistent. He's raced at 6 furlongs his last 3 starts and got the win last out in that 108 and change, and obviously a very fast horse, but looking at potentially a bounce off of that race. And so I want the value that I'm getting with this Brad Cox runner, the 3, who is 5 for 9 lifetime, 2 for 2 at the distance of 6 furlongs on a 2-win streak, top in Brisnet prime power, and he's been working out sharply at Payson Park. I like the fact that he's going to potentially come off the pace, so I will play him with that value I'm getting at 5-1.
Love it. That's a super competitive race. And, why take Booth at a short price when he was a big price last out, right? Feels like the ultimate miss the wedding situation.
Yep, absolutely. James, let's switch over to our fades of the week. Tell me about the horse you're not going to back at a short price.
All right, well, I'm going to fade number 2, Mare Dama, in race. I'm sorry, number 1, Mare Dama, in race 2 at Colonial Downs on Saturday. This is a 5-year-old mare by Gervin that has run really one fast race on ever, but really came on dirt. And that was in March 16th of 2023. That was her career debut. She basically, after breaking a half step slow, she rushed forward, just held her positioning throughout, got a decent number for that effort. She only ran one more time in 2023, ran last, came back last time on February 5th in a 5 furlong Tapeta race. And to me, watching that race, Mare Dama found a way to, had every chance to win, and she found a way to lose in the stretch that day. I didn't like how she wouldn't go past the winner as the favorite. And I know that she probably needed that race off the layoff, but running her on synthetic at 5 furlong, I'm a little bit dubious that she's going to have the wherewithal to get the job done at short odds off of that comebacker, stretching to 6 furlongs on dirt. So I know you have to respect Safi Joseph, Flavian Pratt, her Gulfstream Park form, but I think she's vulnerable. Mare Dama in race 2 at Colonial tomorrow.
You've got an intriguing first-time starter in here, Anne's Girl by Gunrunner for Steve Asmussen. And Anne's Girl is out of a dam that has 4 winners from 5 starters, including a stakes winner. So maybe a good play with Erat Ortiz Jr., as I have learned today, the correct way to say his name.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And then even the other horse in there, that Divine Works for Trombetta, I think he's a very much, if that first star isn't ready, the Gunrunner Colt or Gunrunner Filly, then Divine Works is another one that I'd be looking at as a win candidate.
Nick, who are you fading at a short price?
Yeah, I think she'll end up going down in price. I don't really want to be so bold as to fade a 3-1 shot, but she is the morning line favorite. Number 2, Pleasant Embrace in the 11th at Gulfstream. This is a situation where this filly comes in with 3 straight wins, all earned in wire-to-wire fashion. There's a lot of speed signed on in here. The risk of doing this over 24 hours in advance is I don't know the scratches. So obviously this is a situation where if there are some scratches, things could get easier for Pleasant Embrace. But I've got to take a little bit of a swing against her. Not only do I think she's vulnerable pace-wise, there are some real alternatives in here. Horses that are doing interesting things that I think could get them back to better performances. And so that was why I wanted to go ahead and fade Pleasant Embrace, who'll be a pretty short price. Joel Rosario for Kelly Breen on board from the 2 spot in race number 11 tomorrow.
I like it. And I will stick with Colonial Downs for my fade of the week. I'm taking it to the Virginia Oaks, and I'm actually fading both short prices, which I think you all might disagree with me on one of those. But I don't like Gal's Delight, and I want to play against Fondly as well, who is 7-2 on the morning line. Like Kenny McPeak is bringing in Gal's Delight and also Anonima, who I like a lot better compared to her stablemate. The 3 has raced at a mile and 16th in all 3 career starts. Broker made it on debut, but then was a distant 4th in the Martha Washington, 2nd in her last start, and was no match for Good Cheer in that Rachel Alexandra. She is dropping in class and working out sharply, but I see more upside with Anonima, a much better price as well. She went back-to-back with wins at a mile and a 16th, and then last out, broke from post 11, and that might have affected her, but she was also going up against some really good horses. Mahima and Quiet Side ended up winning that race at Oaklawn in the Honeybee, so maybe this post 4 could help her out, but ultimately I like another horse I'll talk about later when we give our picks for the Virginia Oaks. So I'm playing against both morning line favorites in the 3-1 and the 7-2 here. I'll let you all tell me a little bit more about your thoughts later when we talk about the Virginia Oaks. And since we don't have Darren Zacali, he's on site at the NHC in Vegas, I will go through all of our promos and tournaments we have going on. First off, starting at Colonial Downs, we have a lot that you can opt into at TwinSpires. We have 8 times the points. If you opt in, you'll receive 8 times the reward points on all races, excluding show wagers at Colonial Downs on Thursday, March 13th today, and Friday, March 14th. Then our Virginia Derby Day 15% profit boost. That's a 15% boost on your winning win exacta, trifecta, and superfecta wagers on Virginia Derby Day on Saturday. Also, our Road to the Kentucky Derby $10 money back offer that you can play on the Virginia Oaks and the Virginia Derby. You get up to $10 back on your first win bet if your horse finishes 2nd or 3rd. And every Oaks and Derby prep race happening in March. And then we also have a Virginia Derby Oaklawn KDBC qualifier, $500 qualifier on March 15th, and that's $250 to your bankroll, $250 to the prize pool. We've got a KDBC seat and cash prizes available for that tournament. And finally, we also have Pool 5 of the Kentucky Derby Future Wager happening this weekend, and we have a bet get offer. So if you wager $50 or more during the duration of this Pool 5 this weekend, you will receive a 20% bonus and an invitation to an exclusive Derby Week bet get offer as well.
Hey, I'm betting a couple dollars on Prater off of that comeback win. He's got speed, Nick, in that Derby future wager.
Yeah, no, it was a blowout win. We'll see. We'll know everything about how Chad feels about him by that next start, right? If he's in a Derby prep, I think it's pretty clear the connections want to get him there in a hurry.
Yeah.
Now that I've given you all the promos and tournaments, let's go back to that Virginia Oaks conversation. Nick, tell me who you're playing in the Virginia Oaks.
Yeah, so I went with Fondley. I think when all is said and done, Fondley's probably going to be relatively close to favoritism. Feels like a real candidate to move down off that morning line of 7-2 with the quality of the debut win at Tampa Bay Downs. Irad Ortiz Jr. gets on board and has that good outside stalking type of feel to it. This is a horse who actually could end up on the lead depending on what happens early on. There are some horses stretching out, but I don't think the pace is going to be all that contested. And so I'm expecting Fondley to improve. You know, these horses are always risky, right? One good effort looks like a ton of upside. It is a big ask going from 7 to 8.5, but it is still around one turn. Feels like she really made out like a bandit at the post position draw, and there's just too much upside to ignore. Great human connections in play, obviously, with Graham Motion in the mix as well. So I thought Fondley made the most sense as sort of the now horse, because some of the horses with more exposed form in the field don't really do a whole lot for you in the sense that we've seen probably close to their best. I'm inclined, like you, Ashley, to be a little more skeptical of a horse like Gull's Delight, but she feels like the horse, obviously, to beat on paper. We just don't know how good Fondley is yet. I'm banking on her being pretty good.
James, do you agree?
Yeah, I'm right there with Nick. I like Fondley. She broke from the rail in that race at Tampa Bay in mid-February, and that forced her off the pace that day. But I agree. I wouldn't be surprised to see her closer to picking up Irad and being drawn outside. I loved her turn of foot in the stretch. I think it's a positive sign that Graham Motion's running her back 4 weeks later. I think he's thinking she's got a chance to win big races this spring, and she needs 2 more starts potentially, and so this will give him time if he wants to bring her back in another prep. So I look for Fondley to run a big race in her stakes debut.
Look, she impressed me on debut, racing 7 furlongs. She's stretching out to a route for the first time. Certainly, Graham Motion can get horses ready to do that. But I do want to play a bigger price when I see some upside here with number 5 early on, a Union Rags filly that is coming off a maiden winner. It took her 4 tries to break her maiden. She was in a different trainer's barn, first start out, and then switched over to Safi Joseph, raced at sprint distances, first 2 starts for Safi, and then stretched out to a mile and a 16th, broke her maiden. And I couldn't find the excuses for those 2 starts where she was racing for Safi at sprint distances. I could see why maybe she didn't get the win those days. She had a bad break in the first start out for Safi, and then 2 back. She looked like she just won in longer distance and proved that in her mile and 16th win. So I see a 100 late pace rating in that last start. So that gives me confidence here. Even if we get a moderate pace, I think she can close late. And she has Flavian Pratt aboard. So I see a lot of potential here at a good price, and I will back the number 5 early on.
Yeah.
All right.
I like it.
You're like,
Yeah.
I don't agree with you, but
No, you found some value in there.
Well, let's move over to the Virginia Derby. This is the 1 1/8 mile Virginia Derby, a 1-turn race, just like the Virginia Oaks as well. I should note at that mile and a 16th for the fillies. And James, tell me what your top pick is in the Virginia Derby.
I'm gonna take a shot with number 8, Authentic Gallop. This is a colt that basically 4 and 5 starts back, he's running 6 like up the track, and then finally on December 13th, he broke through with a 2-length maiden win. He came back 2 starts later. We'll see that race here where he basically guts out a narrow win and an entry-level allowance. The thing with Authentic Gallop is. I just think he's a slow, like not a real precocious type that need racing experience. And he's just starting to put things together. And I think he's eligible to improve significantly from a speed figure standpoint moving forward if he continues to progress like I hope. And I think he has a chance to do it. I think he can learn something. He got a lot of seasoning out of that stretch battle last time. And if he can keep moving forward for Tom Amoss, I think he's got a chance to run well on Saturday.
Nick, what about you?
Yeah, my concern with Authentic Gallop was that the horse got a lot better with Lasix, but I agree. He was one of the 2 or 3 horses that I was really thinking I could upset, perhaps Getaway Car with. Obviously, John Hancock's not participating here, which we all anticipated. I ended up going to the 9 Render Judgment. I feel like this horse has probably just been facing better. I think he was compromised last time out by a bit of a wide trip in the Risen Star. Obviously, we think the inside was the place to be that day. That contributed to the big blowout win for Magnitude. And maybe this was a horse that was just better suited to a trip where he could lay back and make one run. They're going to add the blinkers. I think that should help all in all. I think the horse will be a good price in what looks like a competitive race, really outside of the favorite and perhaps Rapture. So I thought Render Judgment at least had the credentials. He's been pretty consistent in his brief career. He's been a little slow compared to where he needs to get to in order to win, but I think there could still be a forward move in him. And I like the potential price and what I think is a class drop going into this spot off that series of tougher races in both Kentucky and Louisiana.
Yeah, almost. Go ahead, James.
It'll be interesting to see what the. I do think that race has the pace to potentially set up your horse if he can take a step forward for Kenny McPeak. I know McPeak's talked about trying to get him figured out. He thinks the horse has ability and just hasn't been putting it together for him. But he's tinkering with the blinkers on here. He said he made a couple other small equipment changes. And I think American Promise is going to try to show speed. I think a couple others are going to show speed as well as Getaway Car. So this race could have a solid setup for a stalker or a late runner.
Yeah, Georgia Magic could be forwardly placed on the outside too, not to interrupt you, Ashley. But and the one-turn configuration is the interesting thing, right? I mean, we only see 2 racetracks in the country, only one that's operational currently that can run a 1-turn mile and a 16th. And at Belmont, the mile and a 16th, in this case a mile and an 1/8. A lot of times the speed can moderate things out there, and actually it ends up being favorable for front running types. But I think this has the look of a fast paced race. And certainly if I like Render Judgment, then I have to believe things are going to really heat up on the front end.
And that is exactly what I was going to say as to why I almost went with Render Judgment as well. I want a horse coming from off the pace because I do think that American Promise, Georgia Magic are really going to push Getaway Car, which makes him vulnerable in my opinion, because we've seen him race at a mile and a 16th and, he's had contested leads where he ended up fading in the stretch. And so that could potentially happen here. But I did talk to Jimmy Barnes earlier today, and he seems very confident. Obviously, they came out here for a reason, the only horse that they brought out to Colonial Downs. But I'm looking to number 7, Rapture. Ended up settling on him over Render Judgment just for the fact that he's coming off that big win, that maiden special at a mile and a 16th at Oaklawn. And looking at the connections here, Brad Cox and Flavian Pratt doing really well together. Paired up the last 2 months, have won 33% of the time. Working out very sharply. Rapture has been putting in good works at Pace and Park. And so I just felt like, looking at the last couple of races for Render Judgment, felt like he was leaving me wanting some more. So I thought coming in hot with Rapture, I would go with him at 5-1 because I think we'll see a very, very short price on Getaway Car on Saturday.
I thought the numbers were a little underwhelming on Rapture's first 2 races, but I did think it was I thought it was encouraging to hear Brad Cox talk about how he's been putting him through these the paces, working him at Pace and Park and Company, and he thinks he's going to take a big step forward. So I will say that those numbers can improve. Lightly raced horses, if they've got the talent, they can jump forward in a significant way, speed figure wise.
All right. Well, I think that's all the time we have today for the TwinSpires jury. James and I are going to go head out and grab some trainer interviews, jockey interviews. And I know you'll be very busy, Nick, doing expert picks for TwinSpires and everything else you got going on because you're always staying busy.
Yeah, one thing James won't have to worry about is Aqueduct expert picks because I got you covered, buddy.
You're the man, Nick. You're the man, Nick.
Anytime.
right, we'll watch our wager at TwinSpires. Check out our social channels. It is Virginia Derby Weekend All Access with James Scully and I. And we also have Lance Humbert and Austin Hines on site with us as well. And a lot of support from Abby Huff and Blaze Bullman back at home. We appreciate it very much. And we will see you next Thursday.
When it comes to horse racing, you can never have too much information. With TwinSpires, you can place your bets with confidence, whether you use handicapping insights like our Brisnet speed ratings, prime power and past performances, the guidance of our experts' top picks, or just choose a name that catches your eye. Yes! No matter how you pick your horse, bet with TwinSpires. And now you can race to victory with TwinSpires tournaments.